Antonio Valenzuela with articulture.soku.org. I'm with Danielle Seawalker. How are you today, Danielle?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Doing great. I'm just trying to bring information to the community. And
Yeah.
we found your story on Instagram when you posted it, and immediately felt like this was part of our information circle. And obviously, your story is important to the plight of not only Native Americans, but people of color around the world. So thank you for taking the time to be with us today.
Sure.
Now, today you did also drop an interview on the Westward. People can go check it out, and it does have a little bit more details. But long story short, you were approached and invited to participate in a summer residency artist program in the town of Vail, Colorado.
Yes, that's correct.
And then because of some of your art that you had recently put out, or the G is for Genocide particular piece, which again, but before we even get into that, you know, I've been in the art scene for a very long time. I grew up on 10th and Santa Fe in Denver, where all the art was, and the only time I've ever seen something be commented or marked on is when something was particularly gory or overtly sexual, which your piece is absolutely not. But that prompted the city of Vail to basically rescind their offer based on the artwork that you had already put out. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So, first of all, let's go into how shocked were you when you actually got the news?
I was I was more shocked at like what I was hearing and the words that were coming out of the town of Vale's mouths. Um, the things that I heard in the brief phone call that we had was, we can't have someone like you who's too political coming into Vale to create art here, because it would create us, it would put us, the town, in a bad position of having to choose sides, and we can't, do that in terms of politics. And I was trying to digest all of that because I heard separate things in that phrase. Someone like me, too political, having to choose political sides. I just was like, I didn't understand where that was coming from.
Right. And just to be clear to all of our listeners, because these are things we talk about, is that the city of Vail was basically stolen from the Ute Indians. The Ute Indians occupied that land long before Vail was ever developed, and
Mm-hmm.
under multiple treaties, Ute Indians were forced to be, moved, and many of them ended up in Arizona, New Mexico, Oklahoma, places outside of Colorado. So the city of Vail has an interesting past with people
Mm-hmm.
of color as it stands. Um, sorry, I digress. But just knowing the history of Colorado, it's like, wow, this is odd. Um, did you? Because I know that sometimes when you're considering taking a job or a position with any particular agency, as an artist who has values and morals, before you even decided to embark on this journey, did you have questions about it? What parts did you already question before this incident happened? Because I know that process goes through your mind, like, wow, okay, the city of Vail, and how can I represent?
Yeah. So when I got the email, which was literally the turn of the new year in early January, the email was from their arts and public places coordinator, Molly Eppard, and basically it was, "Hey, my name's Molly. I run this program in Vail, and I've been following your work for a while, and I'm a really big fan. I would love to have you become an artist in residence and do a mural in our town. If it's something you're interested in, let's chat further." So initially, I was thinking, Vail, that's interesting. Number one, I didn't know that they had an artist in residence program or an arts and public places program.
Right.
So, but I was open to hearing more about what they were offering and what they had to say and kind of what their objectives are in with their program, and did a little research on my own. It's out there on the web, although they've been taking a lot of stuff down on the web recently, which is kind of
Right.
interesting. Um, what shined for me through that program was that they highlighted wanting to have more diversity in their community, and I thought, yeah, this is a great opportunity to penetrate a community, engage with a community that's really not known to have a lot of diversity within it. And considering that Vail is built on stolen land, which everyone needs to be reminded of that. Not even just Vail, but this whole country is
Absolutely.
built on stolen land. I thought this would be a great opportunity to talk with people that might not have interacted with a Native person before, maybe a Native person that can speak eloquently and intelligently and maybe surprise them, to demonstrate that we are successful contributing members to their community and our society here in Colorado and beyond.
Right. So there were already trepidations prior to accepting that, just because of the nature of not only the history of the town, but the
Yeah.
fact that this is not a place that's normally known for going, hey, let's celebrate Native Americans.
Right. Yeah. And I'd never been to Vail before, doing a site visit and kind of going and meeting folks in person. But I was excited for the opportunity. And we had lots of discussions over several months of planning and really trying to make it a robust residency. And so it seemed to be a really exciting opportunity.
And so, was the G for genocide piece already out during this process, or when did that kind of come out?
Yeah, good question. So the initial invitation for the mural and residency was in early January. I had been prepping for a solo show here in Denver for History Colorado, which the town of Vail came to my opening in Denver. So they had seen, a huge example of what my work stood for and all the narratives that I try to put out there through the work. But during that, shortly after that opening in end of February, early March, I was invited to participate in a group show here in Denver as well. And I put that piece out there. So I'd created it
Okay.
end of February, and it was out in early March, sold immediately to a private collector, and had been out into the public for a few months. And then it was just last week that suddenly somebody in the Vail community saw it on my social media and became really upset with it.
And what's interesting about the piece, and I'll end up showing a piece on our screen, but
Sure.
it doesn't overtly say anything about Palestine. It doesn't overtly say anything. It's not red, black, and green, like succinctly or anything like that. So when I first saw it, it took me a minute to go, why? So, let's talk about that a little bit more. And I think that you did make a statement in the Westward talking about we that you felt like this would be representative of Jewish Holocaust survivors as well, because of their history with genocide. And so it seemed like you were a little surprised that this piece was targeted.
Yeah, I was surprised. I mean, whenever you put art out there that challenges people's mindsets or their opinions or, dances along the lines of things like Gaza or Palestine and Native American histories, it does create a little uncomfortness within people. But never since I put that piece out there had I gotten any backlash, any criticism. Nobody's really come forth to say, oh my gosh, I'm offended by this piece. It's really centered on my reflection of what's currently happening in the world today,
Right.
specifically Palestine and Gaza, and my news feed, a lot of our news feeds being filled with these horrific imagery of children and women and innocent people being killed and displaced essentially and starved. And
Right.
I couldn't help but reflect on, coming from an ancestral lineage of my ancestors went through genocide and um, attempts at assimilation and erasure, and elimination. So it was really just putting those parallels together. And if you look at the piece, it's really merging the two cultures together. But yeah, like you mentioned, there's nothing very specific about it being about Israel or about supporting a terrorist group or anything like that.
Right.
It's just really meant to be an emotional piece to draw parallels.
Right. We recently released a five-part documentary talking about the forceful migration of Native Americans in Colorado specifically, and it was the Treaty of Abiqui, and then later the Treaty of Fort
Mhm.
Laramie,
Laramie. Yep.
Laramie, right? That basically made it okay to create forts and then later, forcefully move people. Um,
Mhm.
what parallels do you see, or do you see any parallels in the way that policy is used sometimes to justify injustice?
Yeah, I mean, this whole country is built on the backs of stolen land and genocide of Native and Indigenous people that were here before. And there were treaties and policies put into place by the US government that have been completely broken and ignored, and dismissed. We all here in Colorado specifically, it's interesting that there's no reservations that lie on the Front Range. There
Right.
should be.
Not one in Colorado.
No.
It's ridiculous.
Yes, exactly. And so, you know, the Arapaho and people were born in, from the confluence in Denver and were forcefully removed and put into Wyoming. And so, and this is just one example, but there's so many examples of how that happened here in this country that a lot of people don't realize, talk about, or even maybe even know because they don't teach it.
Right.
But that's really what's also happening with Gaza. These people are being forced out and aren't allowed to be their own free um,
Right.
community, I guess.
Right. Self-actualizing.
Yeah.
Um, do you find that the awareness of Gaza, because like I can't remember a time, and I'm only 40, but I don't remember a time even studying in history in the
Hmm.
last 80 years or beyond that when people received information so quickly. And to me, I see awareness around the world for this particular topic like there never has been. Has that raised some awareness, or have you noticed any awareness of people now being like drawing lines and parallels to Native Americans? Do you feel that's drawn awareness to the plight of Native Americans?
I think so. And I think indigenous populations in general, I mean, it's not just a Native American thing that's happened. There's indigenous communities around the world that have been displaced or had faced genocide.
Congo, Australia,
Yeah.
Philippines,
Our First
India.
Nations, our relatives to the north, our relatives to the south here in North America. But yeah, it's data and information moves at the light of speed these days, or the speed of light, I should say,
Right,
these days. And we all have it at access in our fingertips. And I think it causes people to react a lot quicker and a lot more in real time.
right. Now, of course, when you put something else like this and you get news, you're gonna get negative emails and letters
Yeah.
and all of those things. Have there been any positives? Has anybody on the other side reached out to you and said, "Hey, we would love to feature your art," or "We would love to work with you in lieu of this," or vice versa?
Yeah, I have gotten such an outpouring of support from strangers, from friends, from the media, which the media is not always on your side. Just a ton of support, more so than any of the negative feedback, which really hasn't been a whole lot of negative. It's been like a few one-offs that just been atrocious that I
Right.
don't even want to repeat. But yeah, it's just been a really great network of support and outpouring. And there definitely has been new opportunities that have presented themselves that is really great.
That's so awesome. Danielle, if you could take a few seconds, tell people where they can find you, how they can support you, and be in contact with you. And we do appreciate your time.
Sure. Yeah. I'm not a whole like very present on social media as a whole, but I am on Instagram, and that's kind of where I publish a lot of my artwork. And it's at Seewalker underscore art, and Seewalker is SEE Walker at underscore art. And then my website is seawalker.com, which is my last name.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you telling your story. We will keep in contact with you and see what you do in the future and share this with you as it goes up. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hold on one second. Hear my daughter up there.